Okay, next question. What do I do with my hands when presenting in front of an audience? Very common question. People ask me, what do I do with my hands? What do I do with my body? Sometimes people ask me about how do they dress. And so I want to give you a simple principle to deal with all of this. Here's the simple principle. There is neutral and there's expressive. Now, neutral means my body, my attire, everything about me is saying very, very little, if not nothing whatsoever. Therefore, the only thing that people are catching are the things that are coming out of my mouth, what I'm saying, the concepts that we're discussing, and my body is not distracting. So that's called neutral. Then expressive is when I gesture to make a point. If I point or if I do something like this would be expressive. And if I change the modulation of my voice, that would be expressive. So neutral means it's not the point. It's not stealing the show. And then when I do move into action, that would be expressive, and that helps. Just a little note on attire. You want your clothing to be okay. You don't want it to be so brilliant that you're a fashion model and it's just, because you don't want your clothing to be more interesting than you. Gentlemen, you might like the power ties, you might like the fancy, colorful shirts and all that. I'm not against them. I'm merely saying you don't want your clothing to be more interesting than your speech. Ladies, same. I guess you have a lot more range of options as far as your clothing. And I hate to have to say this, but be careful of the low-cut tops and the short skirts. I can't tell you how many times that's a problem. First class I ever gave on presentation skills, a college girl took the class and she had a miniskirt on, and then she sat on the desk to deliver her speech, and she had everyone's attention but not on the speech. So be mindful of that. Dress in a way that's conservative and supportive, not going to steal the show. So when it comes to body language, you want your body to be still. This makes sense on the one-on-one as well, but in front of a group even more so. So men and ladies, feet shoulder width apart. Men, your shoulders aren't that wide. So keep in mind your knees should be over your feet, and your hips should be over your knees, and shoulders above that. So you just want to have a relatively relaxed but staid body language. What else should I say here? Okay, now let's get to the hands. This is probably where people get into their biggest challenge. So think of it this way. I'm not much of an artist, but here's the person's head. There's a shoulder and arms. And this is their belt. Okay? So shoulder, shoulder, hip, hip. This creates what's called the torso box. Inside of the torso box, the hands are virtually invisible, or in what I would call the neutral position. They're in here. They're gesturing a little bit, not distracting, not stealing the show. That's called neutral body language. When your hands leave the torso box, they are going to capture attention. They better be on point. So I can't scratch my head, fix something in my ear, scratch something in my nose, adjust anything anywhere else. I need to keep my hands inside the torso box and on point. When they're on point, they can leave the torso box, but make sure that they're expressing a point, not distracting the show. Last thing to share with you is a few tips on how to keep your hands in the torso box, keep yourself out of trouble. A couple of danger things. Hands behind the back. This can be a problem. This looks military to some degree. You think I'm going to start saying things like, listen, dirtbags, or whatever the military people do in those movies. You also might wonder, what am I holding behind my back? What am I hiding? Hands in pockets. One hand in the pocket for a little while is okay. Two hands in the pocket can be a distraction. Men, you definitely don't want to have your hands in your pockets too long. People begin to wonder, get nervous. It's not good. So you don't want to keep your hands in your pockets too long. Now here's probably the worst. It's called the dreaded groin cup. I don't know how else to describe it, but once a man puts his hands here, he's really quite committed. He can't move, because every time they move, it makes an audience member feel like they're being flashed. You know what I mean? I can't gesture from this body language without really scaring somebody. So my advice would be, if you catch yourself in the dreaded groin cup, that simply turn your back and justify moving your hands, and now you're free. But you don't want to flash the audience. So last tip. Hands inside the torso box, elbows at a 90 degree, hands slightly open. What I do is I cheat. You may have noticed this. I carry a marker or a remote clicker. I do something to keep my hands inside the torso box. I try not to play with the item, and I try and use the item to justify why I have it in my hands. It makes life a lot easier. So, calm suggestion, calm the body, keep your hands inside the torso box, use something like a cheat, and when your hands leave the torso box, make sure they're on point. Thank you very much. That is What Do I Do with My Hands?